Picture this, a giant, glowing vending machine dispensing cars like candy. It sounds like the absolute future of retail, right? Well, behind that incredibly shiny facade is a staggering 98% stock crash and massive accusations of a fraudulent pump and dump scheme. In this explainer, we're going to peel back the illusion of one of America's most famous tech disruptors to see what's actually going on behind the glass.
Now, to really grasp this illusion, we have to look past the slick apps and those completely novel vending machines. We need to zero in on their actual cash engine. And according to analysts and insiders, that engine relies heavily on trapping vulnerable, deep subprime customers in highly predatory auto loans. What looked to the general public like an innovative, game-changing e-commerce platform was, behind the scenes, operating as something much more traditional and, honestly, much more ruthless.
Get this, a former Carvana underwriter recently revealed a pretty devastating insider reality. Up to 60% of their customers have poor credit. Lacking other options, these buyers get hit with extreme interest rates. In fact, this underwriter noted the highest rate they saw was a staggering 28.6%. It's a stark look from the inside that really highlights just how aggressive their financing strategy actually was. So let's look at how that trap works in practice. Imagine buying a standard, reliable used car for $15,000. Because of those exorbitant interest rates, which often land well into the 15 to 20% range, that $15,000 car quickly balloons into a $20,000 financial nightmare for the buyer. The physical car itself hasn't changed in value at all, but the massive debt attached to it has just skyrocketed. And this right here reveals Carvana's hidden business model. The cars, they were essentially just the vehicle for the real product. Step 1, target subprime buyers. Step 2, issue these high-interest loans. And step 3, bundle those risky loans together and sell them off to third parties. They weren't just selling cars, they were operating a massive, high-risk debt factory, turning bad credit into immediate corporate profit. You might be wondering, why did this specific business model explode so quickly? Well, it was the macroeconomic perfect storm of the pandemic. The Federal Reserve aggressively slashed borrowing costs, dropping interest rates from 1.75% all the way down to near zero. Suddenly, money was incredibly cheap to borrow for these financial institutions. But at the exact same time, because of massive supply chain constraints, used car prices were at historical highs. This dynamic made Carvana's loan bundling model look like an absolute goldmine. Investors literally could not get enough of it. But as we all know, that pandemic boom was never going to last forever. As the world reopened, interest rates naturally began to rise, and those wildly inflated used car prices finally started to drop. The result? A catastrophic 98% collapse. Carvana stock plummeted from a soaring all-time high of $337 down to a mere $4.70. The music suddenly stopped, and the immense financial gravity of their model pulled them right back to earth. So why was the drop that severe? As Neil Saunders from Global Data points out, Carvana completely failed to anticipate the market shift. They had bought massive amounts of used cars at peak pandemic prices. When demand eventually cooled, they were left holding the bag on wildly expensive inventory, all while sitting on a growing mountain of unprofitable debt. This brings us to a massive disconnect between perception and reality. Investors were sold a beautiful narrative. Carvana was the Amazon of used cars, a limitless tech disruptor. But ongoing shareholder lawsuits allege a much darker reality, that this entire operation was essentially a fraudulent pump and dump scheme. That shiny tech disruptor narrative is now facing some grim, heavy accusations in federal court. How on earth did they allegedly keep this illusion alive for so long? By hiding the true costs of doing business. The lawsuits claim Carvana actively masked its per-vehicle unprofitability by specifically excluding key operational expenses from their retail gross profit metrics. They hid material costs, they hid shipping costs, and they just abruptly stopped reporting the average days to sale. By manipulating these very specific metrics, they made it look like every car sold was a highly profitable transaction, keeping the Wall Street growth illusion alive and well. With billions of dollars at play and financial metrics allegedly being shifted behind the scenes, you naturally have to ask, who was actually pulling the strings here? It wasn't just some faceless board of Silicon Valley tech executives. No, it was a tightly knit family affair. The main architects behind this entire corporate operation were CEO Ernest Garcia III and his father, major shareholder Ernest Garcia II. And here is where things get really interesting. Ernest Garcia II, the father and major shareholder, is a federal felon convicted of bank fraud. Legally barred from running a publicly traded company on the New York Stock Exchange, he allegedly installed his son as CEO, appointed loyal friends to the board, and designed a corporate structure to maintain 80% voting control, literally running the show from the shadows. The sheer scale of this alleged pump and dump is absolutely staggering. We are talking $3.6 billion. Between 2020 and 2021, at the absolute peak of the hype, while they were supposedly hiding the true costs of their unprofitable cars, the Garcias cashed out $3.6 billion in stock. They were making an absolute fortune while everyday retail investors were eagerly buying into the illusion. Accounting professor Daniel Taylor from the Wharton School of Business sums it up perfectly. The Garcias knew the music would eventually end. The central accusation here is that the executives knew this hypergrowth phase was entirely unsustainable. They were aggressively offloading their own shares at peak prices, all while continuing to tell the public that Carvana was a limitless growth machine. Fast forward to a blistering 2025 expose by Hindenburg Research. The data shows that in just 9 months of 2024, Carvana sold $6.15 billion in loans, artificially propping up their revenue numbers. But the massive red flag? $800 million of those loans were sold to what they called an unrelated third party. And who exactly was buying up nearly $1 billion of Carvana's loans? A company called Cerberus. But Cerberus isn't unrelated at all. Its chairman is actually one of Carvana's own directors. It is a blatant conflict of interest. They were essentially passing toxic loans to insiders, like a hot potato, just to make their public accounting look vastly better than it actually was. And the rabbit hole goes even deeper. A former Carvana director admitted, and I quote, "It's kind of like Fight Club. There's certain things we don't talk about, and we don't talk about drive time." Drive Time is another used car dealership network run by none other than Ernest Garcia II. Carvana was secretly generating $105 million in revenue by selling cars wholesale to Drive Time, quietly relying on these related party agreements to artificially inflate their public-facing revenue numbers. This brings us to what's being called the second pump. In 2023, the stock miraculously climbed again. But follow the sequence of events here. First, Garcia III buys in $126 million in shares. The very next day, Carvana announces their best quarter in history. The stock rockets upward. And then, Garcia III quietly sells off an astonishing $1.4 billion in stock. It's a masterclass in calculated wealth extraction. But you can only play this financial shell game for so long before the regulators step onto the field. In June 2025, the narrative hit a major, undeniable climax. The SEC officially issued a formal subpoena to Carvana. Federal regulators have now stepped in, legally compelling the company to produce internal documents regarding these wild financial maneuvers, the insider loan shifting, and the highly questionable related party revenue pumping. Getting those documents, though, that has turned into a total courtroom brawl. Plaintiffs requested over 112,000 internal emails, but Carvana allegedly hid 90% of them using rigged, hyper-specific search terms designed to bury the evidence. It got so ridiculous that a judge actually had to step in, forcing Carvana to produce 250 specific emails at a time just to stop them from dodging the discovery process. Which leads us to a profound and vital takeaway from all this. When you see the next big, flashy startup with a giant, colorful vending machine or a slick, gamified app, you really have to ask yourself, is tech disruption sometimes just a clever smokescreen for age-old financial maneuvering? Because behind the shiny algorithms and the seamless user interface, the real business model might just be extracting wealth at your expense.